Saw dudes. I haven't made a Night Stalker build in a minute, mostly due to the lack of variety that the Void 3.0 rework left the subclass in. Despite that, I do think that Void Hunters possess some of the best abilities in the game and offer a lot of benefits to fire teams for new lights. They can tether groups, generate tons of orbs, weaken enemies from a safe distance, and be an anchor for revives. Today's build is focused on Orpheus Rig, which allows us to spam our Shadow Shot Deadfall super. This weakens many enemies, groups them up for easy killing, and refunds ability energy to make the endgame a cakewalk. Let's get started. As already mentioned, the super will be Shadow Shot Deadfall. It fires a Void Anchor that tethers enemies and applies Weaken and Suppress to those tethered. Tethered enemies share 50% of the body shot damage taken to other tethered enemies. Gambler's Dodge provides instant melee generation, which is perfect for applying the Weaken debuff via Snare Bomb. Snare Bomb weakens combatants hit for 8 seconds. Vortex Grenade is the best choice when it comes to ease of use, crowd control, and damage. It sucks enemies in after detonation and does heavy damage over time to those stuck inside. Today's build uses the stylish Executioner and Vanishing Step aspects. Killing enemies that are suppressed, volatile, or weakened grants invisibility and true sight for 7.8 and 4 seconds respectively. Melee attacks while invisible from stylish Execution deal 150% increased damage and weaken enemies for 5 seconds. Vanishing Step causes dodging to activate Void Invisibility for 4.8 seconds. Fragments for the build are Echo of Harvest, Persistence, Starvation, and Undermining. Harvest causes kills on weakened enemies to create an orb of power. Persistence causes void buffs like Invisibility and Devour to last 40% longer. Starvation causes orb or void breach pickups to grant Devour for 5 seconds. And finally, Echo of Undermining makes void grenades apply weaken to enemies for 5 seconds. Time to cover the Void Hunter attire. On the helmet, I used Harmonic Siphon, Special Ammo Finder, and Heavy Ammo Finder. One of the ammo finders can be swapped for another Siphon mod. For the Night Stalker gloves, I went with Firepower, Grenade Kickstart, and Bolstering Detonation. The Scrap Hunter vest had Charged Up, Concussive Dampener, and Harmonic Resistance. On the stylish Orpheus rigs, I chose to go with Innervation, Insulation, and Stacks on Stacks. And on the cloak were Bomber, Powerful Attraction, and Reaper. For the new players, please go for 100 Resilience. It offers a 30% damage reduction for all sources, and while Invisibility and Devour do help with staying alive, Resilience allows us to take more hits and come out swinging. Since Devour and Orbs of Power will keep us alive, Recovery is a dump stat. The next best stats to max are Mobility, Discipline, and Intellect. Mobility reduces our dodge cooldown, Discipline lowers grenade cooldowns, and Intellect allows for more Shadow Shot activations throughout missions. If you're new to the game and appreciate the guide, please consider subscribing. I'm giving out virtual hugs for those who do. Let's move on to the weapon loadout section. I have 3 weapon loadouts for today, so please use chapters in the video to skip around. Once you find something you like, skip to the end for a build Gameloop explanation. Weapon loadout 1 uses Wishender, Likely Suspect, and Retrofit Escapade. Wishender hits like a truck and produces tons of super energy on hit due to its broadhead exotic perk. Every arrow loosed by this weapon will produce 3 damage instances on an enemy, leading to very fast super generation. It also has intrinsic anti-barrier properties and grants true sight while fully drawn, so it's perfect for long-range poke. If you're going into Grandmaster content and need to take encounters slow to ensure survival, Wishender is perfect. Likely Suspect is a rapid-fire frame fusion rifle that can be rolled with some decent perks, with my current favorite being Stats for All and One for All. Stats for All bumps up numerous weapon stats, and One for All increases damage by 35%. Both have the same activation requirement of hitting 3 separate enemies within 2 seconds of each, so they pair together perfectly. If you want an even bigger damage bonus, craft it with Golden Tricorn in the 4th column instead of One for All. At 2 stacks of the perk, Likely Suspect receives a 50% damage buff. Retrofit Escapade is a rapid-fire machine gun that does insane damage and is acquired from Operation Seraph's Shield. With 4 times a charm in the 3rd column, it deals the highest total damage of any legendary heavy weapon. With a 4th times a charm and target lock roll, this gun melts through bosses and champions with no trouble whatsoever. By adding Weaken and Shadow Shot to the mix, Retrofit Escapade can easily carry DPS phases. Be sure to attach a backup mag mod to take advantage of target lock to the best of its ability. Weapon Loadout 2 uses Riptide, Graviton Lance, and Regnant. Riptide is a rapid-fire frame fusion that drops from Crucible matches and is very easy to get for new players. It can come with an auto-loading holster and chill clip roll, which means it can stun overload and unstoppable champions. The slow stacks stun overloads, and the freeze effect after 3 shots stuns unstoppables after shattering them. This gun is only meant to add crowd control to the build and slow down oncoming targets. It isn't very suitable for DPS. Graviton Lance is a very easy exotic to get, given that it drops from random world engrams. It's essentially a juiced up 2-burst pulse rifle. Kills with the gun explode enemies, generating an explosion that releases seeking void orbs. This makes it an ad clear machine that can provide tons of orbs and super energy. The catalyst just heaps on tons of other bonuses, granting it plus 20 range, turnabout, and vorpal weapon. Turnabout causes shield breaks to grant an overshield, and vorpal weapon increases damage done to bosses and vehicles. Graviton Lance is perfect for playing at range and clearing out hordes, but it does rely on kills. If you are willing to spend some resources at the exotic kiosk, consider picking up Le Monarque. It's It's a void bow that poisons enemies on hit with perfect draws, with precision hits creating a poison cloud. It doesn't rely on kills, unlike Graviton Lance. Regnant is a solid void grenade launcher. Mine is crafted with spike grenades, auto-loading holster, and explosive light. Spike grenades are important for increasing impact damage of direct hits to enemies. Auto-loading holster is great since it conveniently reloads the gun when it is stowed, meaning that it is almost always ready to fire when DPS phases start. Explosive light busts the explosive damage of the weapon by 60% and grants 100 blast radius when picking up orbs. Each orb provides 1 buff shot, up to 6 with the normal perk, and 7 for the enhanced. Weapon Loadout 3 has the Supremacy, Age-Old Bond, and Leviathan's Breath. This loadout focuses on staying at mid to long range and applying constant damage. The Supremacy is a rapid-fire sniper rifle that can dish out very high total damage with a 4 times the charm and rewind rounds roll. This roll can shoot about 50 rounds without the need to reload due to the weapon perk synergy and serves as a backup weapon for DPS phases. The Supremacy can pull its own weight when it comes to melting champions as well due to its supreme ammo economy. See what I did there? It's basically a legendary version of the Whisper of the Worm and how it operates. For good sustained and total DPS, run this. Age-Old Bond is perfect for ad clear and providing more survivability to the build. A repulsor brace and volatile flow roll apply volatile to crowds and grants an overshield upon killing an affected enemy. Since it is part of the high impact frame family, it does heavy damage from a pretty long range and can scale very well into Grandmaster Nightfalls and raids. If you aren't focused on ad clear and prefer to let your super handle that, try out Repulsor Brace plus Golden Tricorn. Golden Tricorn provides a 50% damage buff when fully stacked. Since the abilities in our kit are almost always ready due to Devour and Orb generation, there will be plenty of uptime for the gun. If you don't like relying on kills at all, you can try out Target Lock for a similar experience to that of Retrofit Escapade. However, you will be locked into mag dumping targets to get the most out of the perk. Leviathan's Breath is the only heavy bow in the game, and for my JJK fans, it's Gojo's Hollow Purple. Fully drawn arrows stun unstoppable champions, knock enemies back, and apply volatile. Besides hitting hard, it takes care of another champion type and does a good job of displacing adds. The Catalyst grants it increased reserves, and a modified version of Archer's Tempo to increase its total DPS and sustained DPS. This weapon is perfect for Nightfall bosses and even some raid bosses. Since it isn't a grenade or rocket launcher, it doesn't deal self-damage. Now let's go over the game loop. When the mission starts, you'll play around your weapons and grenades, kill enemies and collect orbs to proc Devour and Slay out. Your objective is to create as many orbs as possible and play with the team to build super energy fast. Once your super is ready, fire it into a large group of enemies. This will refund about half the super energy bar. Kill the enemies affected by the tether to regen more super energy and play around it. Groups who continue to walk into the radius of the tether will create more orbs for teammates and create a perpetual feedback loop. After the tether runs out, repeat the first steps and run back to the team. Plan your steps according to your super progress and don't play too aggressively. You are playing the role of a combat support, so be a little safer. Rinse and repeat. I'm sorry that this build took so long to get out. I was having a hard time voice recording due to some throat issues, so I would have sounded like a chain smoker. The algorithm is not on my side, but rest assured, I will create good content for new and experienced players alike. Other than that, I plan to expand more into Warframe, Star Citizen, and other video formats like video essays and game reviews. I hope that you all are doing well. As always, thank you for watching, and happy farming.